Welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. So, my Instagram's been growing by leaps and bounds thanks to Big Bear telling everyone that it exists, which is interesting. So tonight, actually, I'm just going to take some stupid questions and play a couple unusual tracks that are not intended for my release. Anyhow, more of a DJ session, you might say. I've been doing a lot of writing lately, not music, but well, that too, but mostly using the new Sonnet to work on Monster Control Incorporated, to put together stuff for Tempus Occultum, which I'm going to put a new chapter up tonight after the stream here. I meant to do it day before yesterday upon request, but I just kind of forgot about that one, to be honest. But it was interesting seeing how Japan has announced that they're going to actively start embracing AI and pushing it. So whereas a lot of other countries are ambiguous about it and under a lot of legal pressure to try to stamp it out somehow, the Japanese have understood that, hey, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us to take our advantage in anime and put the pedal to the metal. I strongly suspect that they think that AI is going to give them a big advantage when it comes to competing with Hollywood. And of course, at Archaven, that's what we're waiting for. We're just waiting for. I was experimenting with some of the new video stuff, and it was good enough that I think I have to discuss this with. Infogalactic does not have quite the resources that it used to, 16 months ago. But I need to see if we have enough to start experimenting with some of that, because we've got this massive quantity of great material from Archaven and Castalia that we could use to start producing our own content. But we also need to see that things are close enough yet to start operating that way. I do have one announcement from the devs. Their apologies, but the super chats they thought were going to be ready last night. We're not ready. I told them just, hey, take your time, get it right. Just like we did with the new payment processing system. And so, anyhow, so go ahead and if anyone has any questions or anything they want me to hit tonight, this is just this is the kind of stream that Owen describes as a hang. I've got. I've just been, I'm kind of in one of those moods where I just don't care about current events at the moment. There's a lot going on, but, we're just kind of in this waiting period, and it's not insignificant. It is significant, but the more I've learned, the more I've realized that there's very little point in trying to predict or calculate timeframes. All you do is get it wrong. A lot of us, not a lot of us, the few of us who knew that Russia was much stronger than Ukraine, actually thought that there's a good chance that the war was going to be over quickly. When it started in February 22, and the Russians went for that. They went for a decapitation move at Kiev. It nearly succeeded. But when it didn't work, and then the NATO money started pouring in, that completely changed things. And now Russia's had to defeat, the combined might of the West, which they have done. But it's just taken a lot longer. Clodhopper says, why are Slavs the way they are? I don't know enough Slavs to have an opinion. I'm not even sure exactly who qualifies as a Slav versus a Eastern European. I think that the people I'm most familiar with are Albanians and Kosovars. And so, they basically tend to strike me as hot-tempered Italians, which I'm sure is not right. I'm just saying that's how they tend to strike me. But very obviously, but they're like mountain Slavs, which is very different than Poles and Ukrainians and so forth. So, but my guess would be that if your name was literally the source of the term slave, and you live in a fundamentally indefensible terrain that has been the battleground of Europe for about 1,000 years, that's going to leave an impact on you. So if I had to guess, and this is a guess in ignorance, then I would say it's because of the fact that they've been essentially victimized by European warfare for 1,000 years. So anyhow, so what I'm gonna play you first. I've got two essentially mix or mashups, remixes. The first one is one that I did with AI, and you might recall that my friend Paul released a really good song called Summertime a few years back. And so I was just experimenting with it a while back, and I'd completely forgotten about it. And then I found it today when I was looking for something else. And I was like, this is kind of fun. So I thought I'd share it with you. And then I also received from a DJ something Vibe Patrol versus Calvin Harris Coconut Spectrum. So check them out.
Be alright this time. When the world has gone goodbye, there's a warm night wind. When she's gone in the blink of an eye, there's a whole world outside. In this life we're like fireflies, there's a warm night wind. When she's gone in the blink of an eye, there's a whole world outside. In this life we're like fireflies, there's a full moon shining tonight. And now I'm flying into the flame of Valentine. Because it's summer, 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 summertime. I don't care tonight. Summer, 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 be alright this time. Gone goodbye, there's a warm night wind. When she's gone in the blink of an eye, there's a whole world outside. In this life, we're like fireflies, there's a full moon shining tonight. And now I'm flying into the flame of Valentine. Because it's summer, 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 summertime. I don't care tonight. When she's gone, you just don't know why. You're leaving my life behind tonight. Because it's summer, 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 summertime. I don't care tonight. Summer, summertime, be alright this time. Summer, summertime, I don't care tonight. In this life.
That's enough of that. It doesn't actually end. It just kind of like goes on in various places. What was interesting about that, though, is that was one of my first experiments with actually uploading audio into it and then having it work off of that. Now, I'm going to start experimenting that with the 4.5 because I think that I might be able to do some really interesting remixes of Psychosonic there, which could be kind of fun. And of course, you know, it's a kind of an advantage having this small audio arsenal of things to begin with, you know, which is nice. But anyhow, but one of the hallmarks of success as a musician is when other musicians want to use your stuff. You know, it can be like, for example, when we took that riff from 2 Unlimited long before it got popular. I can remember dancing. I was like, well, we can't just put the riff in that mix of the song. He's like, oh, it's fine. It's just some obscure, you know, Belgian club group. And of course, it ends up becoming this massive stadium hit that is still played constantly today. So, you know, 10 out of 10 for recognizing quality, 0 out of 10 for having any perspective on how popular it was going to get. But this was sent to me by a DJ named Paul, not the Paul Sebastian from Psychosonic, and he's done a couple little things with Booster Patrol. This is something he did with A Drink with a Coconut from Vibe Patrol, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Don't think I'm asking a lot. I wanna go when nights are hot. Hook me up when I'm on Corona. It's time to go now to Barcelona. I wanna drink with a coconut, sex on the beach, a little umbrella margarita with peach. I wanna drink with a coconut.
Good house piano.
Yeah, with a coconut. Fly me out to the Grand Canary, or anywhere on the bright blue sea. I'm just searching for some place sunny where I'll break down my new beach money. I wanna drink with a coconut, Bacardi and Coke, pina colada and out of the smoke. I wanna drink with a coconut, yeah, coconut. I wanna drink with a coconut, Bacardi and Coke, pina colada and out of the smoke. I wanna drink with a coconut, yeah, coconut. I wanna drink with a coconut, Bacardi and Coke, pina colada and out of the smoke. I wanna drink with a coconut, yeah, coconut. I wanna drink with a coconut, Bacardi and Coke, pina colada and out of the smoke. I wanna drink with a coconut.
Selector, put it on the mix out there. Oi, I'm calling promoter. Let's put pen to paper. Stick 'em, stick 'em. Put it to a weed on the flyer. Guaranteed to get the right vibe. You know what to do. Mess around with upside inside the venue. Going out to the raving crew. Take a leg or two. MC's boss, that's your bubbling true. Rubbing the sound inside the venue. Listen to the DJ on the ones and the twos. Whether you're sad or whether you're blue. Going out to the raving crew. reckon. It's MC Sparks and Clive on a mission. There's no confusion. Hold the bass, drop the bass, stop the bass. Hear the sounds, we're in session. Now music's my foundation. We're getting to rock the nation. With the wheel and the deal and they're giving them a feeling. Sparks on the mind that's talking. I like when the beats are rolling. Who's on the mic controlling? With the wheel and the deal and they're giving them a feeling. Sparks on the mind that's talking. I like when the beats are rolling. Who's on the mic controlling?
You know what you gotta do. Don't come with that attitude. Christ sponsor in the venue. The ravers like that. It's right. Give me that K. Give the surprise eye into your eyes. E. Just realize selector. Put it on a mix and blend.
Don't think that I'm asking a lot. I wanna go where the guys are hot. Anywhere on the right blue sea. I just want someone to dance with me.
You get it. You get it. Anyhow, it's funny because some people just hate it when other people, mess with their songs or touch their magic words, that sort of thing. I like it. I mean, I've always enjoyed it. One of the hallmarks, I've mentioned this, is of a Psychosonic song is that there's at least 5 mixes of every single. I haven't quite kept that up because, I've been putting too many singles out there, as it were. But I actually have, for most of them, I do have at least 4 mixes. I just don't necessarily put them all out because the way that the distribution stuffs, it doesn't like to do a single. Anything with more than one song, it calls an album instead of a single. So it gets a little confusing that way. But I do plan to release a Vibe Patrol album this summer. And there's not going to be any, that's just going to go straight out. There's not going to be any crowdfund or anything for that. I will do a crowdfund later in the year for the next Soul Sigma album, which is the Byronics. And I think that's going to be really good. And I may actually ask a couple people to do a couple different mixes of some of the songs, just to keep it interesting. To keep things from getting in too much of a groove. But I think like with the, with that mix of that Purple Revolution mix of Cosmic Trigger that I played the other night, I'm pretty happy with how the sound is broadening rather than narrowing. And so, and we're just getting more and more features. We're just getting more and more abilities, and the audio quality is getting better and better. And so, I will have the final Soul Sigma song for that first project that some of you backed, the Only Skull project. There's one more song yet to come out. You haven't heard it yet. I haven't played it. And we've got both an AI version that will get publicly released as a single, and we also have a fully organic piece that I sang that will go out to the backers. So, anyhow, and they'll both be professionally mastered, so the quality should be all right, at least all right. Question: what philosophy text do you recommend for beginner philosopher versus intermediate philosopher? Well, for beginning philosophy, I would recommend starting with the Stoics. I think they're much more accessible than most. They're much more practical. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus being the 2 primary ones. When you want to get a little bit more advanced, I would go first to Plato, and then I would go to Aristotle. Aristotle is difficult, and it's not even always what you would recognize as philosophy. He's not really, we tend to think of philosophy as saying, like, how should I live? But that's not Aristotle's approach. Aristotle's approach is more what is truth, what is politics, what is government. That's why I think it's more advanced, because if you're trying to understand how you should live, which is frankly all that most people care about. Most people we see this all the time with Sigma Game. You can have this powerful tool for analysis and for guiding your interactions with other people. And all people want to know is, well, what am I? How do I make myself higher status? I did a post on that on social Sigma Game today, and I pointed out, look, faking it is exactly what everybody does on social media. All the influencers with their fake private jets, their fake girlfriends, their fake harems of women. There was let me find that. It was pretty funny. Oops, let's turn this stuff off. I need to turn myself on. There I am. Where's voxday.net? There we are. So how do we get to Sigma Game there? Let me just read this to you. So this woman, I don't want to do that. It says, I just want to point out that the guys behind these accounts hire us sex workers to hang out with them and take pictures, LMAO. Last summer I was on a boat with 4 other women, and the guys who booked it took selfies and Snapchats with us all day, which ended up on one guy's alpha male account where he was like, these women flock to me. And I can't seem to close that. Let me see if I can. No. She's talking about like a Dan Bilzerian, Andrew Tate type influencer, and she's pointing out, yeah, we're flocking to you because you're paying us. You're literally paying us to be here. And then the funny thing was, he was saying something like, you don't want to be with any old hags over 25. That's why I'm hanging out with all these young babes. She's like, dude, we were all in our 30s. You can't even tell the difference between what a 21-year-old and a 32-year-old looks like. And here you're like trying to brag about your fake lifestyle to everyone on social media. Now, what people are doing there is they're attempting to raise their social status, their sexual status. That's what women are doing when they are putting filters on social media. They're trying to make themselves look better than they actually are. Same thing with guys, I thought it was interesting that apparently Tinder is giving women, I don't know if it's both men and women, but they're giving the ability to filter for height. So obviously, this is going to be very, very hard on men who are under 6 feet tall, because when you think about it, the vast majority of women are, of course, going to go, ooh, I don't want to, I would never go out with anyone under 6 feet tall. The funny thing is, half of these 5'2" to 5'4" women can't even tell the difference between a 5'9" guy and a 6 foot guy. There's that hilarious video of this hilarious meme. This woman was complaining about how she was mad at her boyfriend, and he took a picture of what she looked like from his perspective, and she just looked like an angry little kid. She's like, I just think this was so disrespectful. It's like, well, that's what 6'2", that's what you looked like to 6'2", anyhow, it's just getting into that whole 80 to 18 rule. The women only see the 18% of most attractive guys. Pillow Vendor says, soon to come, weight filter. I don't think so, because the social media companies are completely oriented towards women. And they're not really concerned about men because there's plenty of men on every social media site. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it easier for women. West by God says every guy is going to be 6'4" on there now. Well, yeah, I mean, what they're doing is they're encouraging people to lie because they've already encouraged women in their illusions and delusions. And so, but you know, when the system is broken, when the system is fake, there's tremendous pressure for everybody to be fake. And of course, this is a mistake. You know, the solution to, you know, if you're genuinely interested in improving your status, the solution is be more awesome. Now, there's many different ways to do that, but faking it is not the optimal one. Faking it is the shortcut. And, you know, the most important thing is, like, learn what's actually of interest to people. You know, unfortunately, you can't believe what anybody says. You know, if you ask 100 women what they really want and what would really impress them, they're like, just, you know, be nice. Okay, well, that's useful. And then meanwhile, the guys are like, dude, you got to get huge, you got to get big, you got to get on horse tranquilizers and bench 500 pounds. And I mean, that's better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. But you're only going to attract a certain type of gym bunny if you go that route. You know, I know a couple guys that went that route before. I know a couple guys that are on that path now. You know, they seem to be fine with it, but they're certainly not individuals that I consider to be particularly successful with the opposite sex. You know, and that's why I think that it's good to learn what the rules are. It's good to learn what people are seeking and what people are trying to accomplish. You can learn from what the crazy influencers and grifters are doing. What they're doing, what they're trying to do, tells you what is of value to people. You know, there's obviously a certain value in the concept of Sigma, for example, or you wouldn't have everybody and their brother grifting with, you know, Sigma grind set, 7 ways to be a Sigma male, etc., etc. And it's going to be something else 2 years from now. You know, in 2 years, Sigma and Skibbity and Riz and all that stuff are going to be replaced with something else. And that's fine. You know, I actually kind of look forward to that because we can continue doing what we're doing, which we've been doing all along, paying no attention to the whole influencer, grifter, social media game. And we can continue on our Aristotelian path of seeking to better understand the truth, better serving the good, the beautiful, the true, better serving God. But it's still useful to know what's happening, what is of interest to people, you know, because you have to live with them. You're surrounded by them, and it's really not terribly healthy to always view it as being surrounded by a sea of retardery. I mean, yes, on some level that is the truth, and you have to recognize it, and you have to accept it, and you have to deal with it, right? I mean, the way that I deal with it, which is essentially talk to no one. Yeah, outside of my family. I can go, I think yesterday, if it wasn't for my stream with Owen and one phone call from somebody at Castelia, I would not have spoken to a single person outside my immediate family. And I'm very fine with that. I'm absolutely 100% fine with that. But it does tend to leave you a little bit disassociated from the everyday world and its concerns. I don't think it's a mystery as to why my posts have been getting increasingly abstract and esoteric, because I'm in a more abstract and esoteric place right now. It's a good thing that I have my football team to relate to. How much overlap do you estimate the 4 primary factors of a man's SSH have, if any? Well, what are the 4 primary factors? I mean, are you talking about nature, nurture? Are you talking about height, weight, physical attractivity? Oakland in the house. Good evening, Vox. Good evening, Oakland. Oh, I see what I posted about today. Behavioral patterns, men's perceptions, female attract. Okay. Well, I mean, there is obviously overlap, but what I think is most important, and this is in my experience, if you are attractive to women, that will tend to that will outrank everything else. There's 3 specific examples I can think of. One, the oldest one, would be my experience going to college, and to a lesser extent my experience in high school. I didn't have I didn't know anybody. I didn't know one single person at my university when I went there. And I didn't fit in great. Most of the people were either from the West Coast or the East Coast. I was from the Midwest. I had, my hair was bleach blonde in the front and down to my chin. And I had this sort of, Duran Duran look going. And everybody else there was like, very prep school. And the guys on my hall initially didn't like me. And some of them were, trying to give me a hard time. And then the football player in the hall, big linebacker, Sully, he stepped in and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, "You should be asking this guy to give you notes." They're like, he's like, you're calling him a fag and stuff, and he's gone out with half the hottest girls on the next hall, and most of the guys, because I wasn't like talking to these people about this, most of the guys didn't know that. Once they like checked for verification and realized that that was actually the case, suddenly my status just, I was, at the top of the hall. And nothing else had changed. The only thing was that they became aware of the fact that I was considered highly attractive to the women in our dorm. And so that's why I think that from my perspective. Also, 2 other examples. The friend that I went to Tokyo with, he basically had no other friends besides me. He didn't belong to a fraternity or anything. Wasn't involved in sports. Was actually getting a triple major in like biology, pre-med, and something else. So he was basically just studying all the time. But he was very good looking, and in fact, they did a calendar of the 6 best looking guys and the 6 best looking girls on campus, and he was one of them. And despite the fact that very few people actually even knew him personally, he used to, we would, when I wasn't with my team, he and I would have lunch together every day and all that sort of thing. But he had very high status just because everybody knew that all the girls thought he was super hot, and he was lacking everything else. He wasn't particularly rich. He wasn't particularly brilliant or anything. And he actually, thanks mostly to me, he actually got elected senior class president, even though, barely anybody knew him, which was funny. But that's how far you can take female attraction if you're a guy. I think that behavioral patterns are very important, but secondary to that. And what was my third example? I'm trying to think what my third example was. I had another one, but I can't think of it at the moment. But that's the one that's the most important. Now, that can be women can become attracted to you because of the other factors. That can definitely happen. But and we're going to delve more into it on Sigma Game. The post that I did today, I'll follow it up with at least 2 more, and we'll see how many more after that. But the importance of that is like, how do you relate that to the real world? What's the practical application? Okay, the practical application is when you go out, whether it's to a party, to a bar, to a club, whatever, who do you spend your time talking to? I've never understood the kind of guys who go out and then spend their time hanging out with the same guys that they always hang out with. When I would go out, I would split. I would split from my friends immediately. Go talk to some pretty girls. And that's exactly what the guys that I knew who were the most successful and had the highest status all did too. I mean, if you were going somewhere with someone like Jimmy Wicca, you did not expect to have a lot of conversations with him. And one of my best friend actually once said, it just seems like you have a goal when you go out. And I'm like, well, yeah, I do. I mean, I live with you. I can talk to you anytime. Why would I sit there at a bar talking with you? When there's 3 pretty girls over there, there's 5 pretty girls over there. I mean, go talk. Let's go. And now again, there's overlap, right? There's overlap because obviously you need a certain amount of self-confidence. You need you need to have a certain amount of social status for the people to talk to you. But I mean, look at me, even in the wreck of my old age, you can see that, while I was probably fine looking, I wasn't particularly stunning or anything. I wasn't. I'm average height, in better shape than most guys are, but not in a way that's necessarily all that visible. I mean, it was kind of funny. When I was in college, I remember there's this figure skater I dated, and her reaction was very similar to that that scene where in Ryan, what's his name, Emma Stone and Ryan, whatever, and he takes off his shirt, and she's like, "Fuck, are you photoshopped?" And this is pre-Photoshop days, but the girl's like, I can't believe I can't believe what kind of shape you're in. I thought you'd be a little softer. And I'm like, I run varsity track, You're surprised I'm in shape? I'm a Division I athlete, for crying out loud, But so I didn't have that much going for me. I didn't have anything particularly special going for me, but you put first things first. You put first things first, and you're much more likely to get somewhere. If you're going out, and maybe this is because I'm such an introvert, but if I'm going out and I'm going to actually make the effort to go out, then you got to do it. Dutch Hercules says, "Cut it out, Vox." I don't know what that means. I mean, trust me, if I put up a picture of me, my brothers, and my friends, I'm not in the top 50%. Let's put it that way. This is not false modesty. This is reality. Plus, remember, I lived in Minnesota in the late 80s. The people were very good looking. I didn't realize how lucky we were at the time. But, it was a different time, different place, different population. Although it was funny to go to Tokyo and suddenly be like, I'm huge. I'm a head taller than everyone. This is kind of fun. But if you have a goal, if you have an objective, then you need to focus on it. Don't sit in the corner hiding with all the other guys. I mean, I used to kind of laugh a little bit when I'd see these guys, these groups of guys. Pillow Vendor says, compared to now when it looks like the set of Black Hawk Down. Yes, exactly. But you go out and you'd see all these folks and like everybody's like in their little. We're losing the camera here, so we'll just have to go with it. Here, we'll go here just so we have something more interesting to look at than a blank space. But Sledge with an Edge says, when you have 3 pretty girls here and 5 pretty girls there, it's definitely an era. Yeah, true. I agree. But here's the point, is how do you develop your skills at interacting with the opposite sex if you don't go and talk to them? If there's a fat girl with pretty eyes, go talk to her and tell her she's got pretty eyes. There's almost always something interesting and something attractive about virtually everyone. I mean, one of my favorite things to do when I'm sitting around in public and I don't have a book with me is I like to watch couples go by. And I like to look at them and try to figure out what it is about each person that their partner is attracted to. Because there has to be something, right? There has to be a reason why at some point in time that guy decided, hey, I want to talk to that girl. And there has to be something that made that girl go, hey, I like this guy better than the other guys that are my options at the moment. And so it's really interesting because you can often, I would say, you can reliably find something about even people that you find personally fairly unattractive. You know, yeah, you'll see some woman walking past and you know, maybe her face is terrible, but her hair is really nice. Or maybe she's got nice legs, even though, you know, her upper body is an apple, and she's, you know, got a fat face or something. I mean, there's almost always something. And if you can teach yourself to see those things, then that gives you something to talk to them about, even if there's nothing of interest to you around there, right? And the important thing is just don't. And I hear people saying, "Oh, there's no." I just don't believe that, because I see attractive. I don't see necessarily tons of attractive people, but you know, it's rare that you go out and you don't see any attractive people. And it's not like, you know, you're not Dan Bilzerian. You don't need to surround yourself with 15 people. You know, all it takes is one. And you know, and you don't need to perform for them. You don't need to be a clown or a juggler. I mean, yes, women are not great about entertaining them, you know, about entertaining themselves, and they're not great about being conversationalists. But they all like to talk about themselves, talk about the stuff that they're interested in. I mean, how difficult is it to just have a arsenal of 20 basic questions that you could ask any woman and get her talking? Cactus Eater Bear said, I didn't turn down dance requests often and inevitably was approached by guys cuter than me. Yeah, that's one thing that I've found about a lot of women who are quite successful with men in a positive way. I'm not talking about sluts, but they tend to have a degree of openness to them. You know, they have a willingness to give guys a chance. And so, yes, I know I'm off screen. My battery is dead. This is not news. So I forgot to charge my battery after streaming with Owen last night. But yeah, so that's my advice is, yeah, I'm not talking about the shotgun approach. I'm talking about improving your social skills. And the best way to improve your social skills is to be open. And from the male point of view, you need to think in terms of being a hunter, being a predator. The predator does not stand in one place with the herd. That's what prey does. So you need to be willing and able to go out there and approach and take your shots, and you know, just and the funny thing is, the more that you do that and the more easily you do that, the better responses you tend to get, because it becomes very obvious to the women that you're not afraid of them, and you're also you're you're outcome independent. You're not going to get nasty if they just smile and say no thanks, or I have a boyfriend, or etc., etc., etc. Right? So anyhow, that's all I've got for tonight. So thanks for indulging the mashups, and I will see you at the next dark stream.